Welcome to the inner world of filmmaking. I'm your host, Tammy Magaro. I'm an editor, podcaster, and still photographer. In this show, I will interview filmmakers in all facets of production and distribution. I'm excited to introduce Kate Green, who is the creator and director of the sci-fi web series Narco Leap. Welcome to the show, Kate.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I'm curious. I watched your series and I'm curious. I found it fascinating, like the concept of, and which you're going to share shortly. And I was just wondering, like, how did you come up with the idea for the show and then deciding I want to create it as a web series?
Yeah, well, I'll have to kind of rewind things a little bit because my intention at the very beginning of this was I was working as a producer and I loved producing and kind of bringing the projects all together and that, but I really wanted to direct and I really wanted to be a storyteller in a visual sense. And so I was looking for something to direct and I met a young actor called Donald Auger, and he pitched me this idea. Now, this is probably back in like 17 or 16, something like that. And the idea was about a young girl, like 8 years old, trapped in a military facility. She had special powers and her name was Subject 46.
I love it.
Sound familiar?
Yes.
It is. It's Stranger Things.
Yes.
So, but I knew there was a kernel of an idea there. And I really thought that it was worth working on and developing. And that's what we did. So I optioned that kernel of an idea. And then I went to the Women in Directors Chair program in Vancouver, which is a program for female directors. And you have to apply with a project. And I applied with Narco Leap. And in that program, it's completely, in the process of development, you strip down everything you have and then you build it back up again. What I came out with was Narco Leap, as it is now, and a very different idea.
Right. Yes, very different.
That's how the development process, we were lucky enough in Canada, we've got programs like this and organizations that support emerging talent. And that's kind of how it all came about.
Can you tell us a little bit about what Narco Leap is?
Yeah, it's about a young woman, Kelsey Atkins, who has narcolepsy, or so she thinks. And every time she falls asleep, she leaps into somebody else. And of course, the government is trying to capture her. And she finds herself thrust into this world of espionage as a college student, trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, I found that so fascinating. Like, how cool would that be to be, well, not the whole episode to get there, but to be able to go into different people. And then also when she went into her friend who's a male, I thought that was kind of fascinating, who's like kissing some girl. And it's like, oh my God. I just thought that was really a fun play on going into different genders too,
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the whole idea and kind of the theme behind Narco Leap is, it's about a young woman, in college coming into her own, trying to find kind of her inner strength, and something that she thought was kind of this debilitating thing that happens to her actually ends up being her superpower. And it's a bit of a metaphor for women in general that, we all have our inner superpowers. We just need to kind of find it. And also it does beg the question, who would you leap into if you could, and why?
Well, and also like through the series, she's figuring out her powers, we're with her in her journey to figure out what is going on and who she needs to leap into to figure things out.
Yeah. Season 1 was all about that discovery for her. And and she, at the end of season 1, you're not really sure, like, she's alone in this. But season 2, you discover that perhaps there's other people that have this power too. So,
yes,
it's fun.
It's always nice to know you're not alone. Like there are other people. You just got to find them. You're from Canada. Did you shoot it in Canada?
Yes, we did. We shot it in Vancouver and kind of the surrounding area. Yeah.
And then how did you approach the casting for your web series? I mean, did you hold auditions, work with local talents?
Yeah. Well, kind of going back to the early days of the development and creation of the series, I knew that I always wanted to make a series about a woman kicking ass and taking names.
Right, of course.
Even if it's in a sci-fi world,
Yeah.
And Chelsea Reist was somebody that I had worked with many, many, many years ago. And I had hired her as a host on a travel show. So I knew that I wanted to work with Chelsea. And also Nicole Oliver, who plays her mom, she was the host on a reality TV show. It was my first job in television called Crash Test Mommy. And
Oh,
Nicole was the host on that series. Did fantastic. And we kept in contact over the years. But it kind of goes to show that, you be nice to everyone and you never know where their careers are going to take them. And, how maybe, 10, 15 years later, you end up working with them again. And Alex Ponovic was also somebody that I'd known in Vancouver over the years and begged, begged him to be in the show. And Alex is just like one of the nicest humans possible. And of course, he was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll come out and play. So it was great. Now, I do work with a casting director, Tina Marie Casting, and she did the casting for season 1 and season 2. And that's how we found Madison Smith, who plays Aiden, and also Austin Eckert, who plays Miles Kirkland.
it must be so fun to find talent and then get to work with these people. And you also directed all 14 episodes. So how was it? What is your approach to directing your actors?
Well, I do have a background in acting. Many, many moons ago, I thought I was meant to be an actress. So I pursued that for a little while and went to school and that. So I kind of know the language of actors to start with. But I think it's just understanding that they're trying to do their best job possible. And they're in such a vulnerable position when you come on set and there's all these crews around you. And, it's just, and of course, and then they've got to just on cue, open up emotionally and be believable. So I think it's really about creating a safe space, being available to the actors beforehand. If you can get rehearsal, even if it's just to have a coffee with them or a Zoom call with them to talk about their characters. And that's what John and I had to do. We had to do that for season 2 because it was during COVID.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
who produces a web series during COVID?
Right.
No, apparently Kate Green does. But yeah, we had, and John was stuck down in the States. He was visiting family down there and he was stuck. So, but yeah, we did Zoom calls with everybody and we talked through the series and the characters and motivations and all of that. And so for me, it was when we finally got the green light to go back on set and the lockdown was lifted. It was such a treat. And you don't realize how much you love it and miss it when you don't have it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it seemed like the cool thing about COVID was it was a time to really nurture ideas and figure
Yeah.
things out in a very quiet atmosphere. I mean, I guess like shooting on the streets would be like desolate, you know?
Yeah. Well, luckily we had written season 2 in a way on purpose so that we had minimal locations. A lot of it takes place at the safe house that they get to. Luckily, I have some very good friends that that are willing to let us use their house,
Yeah.
take over. Yeah.
Gotta love that, right?
Yeah.
So how did you handle scripting and writing for the web series? Did you have a team of writers? I know that you wrote an episode. How did that work?
Yeah. So when I got out of Women in Directors Chair program, I had a fully fleshed out series, package, character descriptions, synopsis, and all the rest. And then back in season 1, I didn't really know anybody in the scripting world because, again, like this for me was a vehicle to direct and it was a vehicle for me to, kind of transition into scripted. I was working a lot in unscripted television. So, but I did know David Schmidt. And he came on board season 1 and he took that package of what I had and wrote the scripts. And in season 2, we had gotten a bit of development money from the CMF, which is the Canadian Media Fund, to develop it into a full-length television series. So doing the web series of season 2 was really integral in setting up the television series. So John Cooksey came on board for season 2 because he was going to show run the TV series, and he helped kind of, how do I say, like set up certain story beats and such that the television series then would kind of make sense. And I did write an episode for season 2. And it was great. I loved it.
Like, had you written before? Or was this your first time
Uh,
writing or?
no, that would be my first. Yeah. Now
Wow.
it's I've got a few others under my belt now, but yeah, yeah,
Oh my God, how exciting.
yeah. I mean, I'd written a lot in unscripted, um, and of course, yeah, it was exciting. And also because I was the director for both seasons, and I was in the edit suite for both seasons. The show is either made on set or in the edit suite.
Right. Did you go into it shooting both seasons, or did you shoot one season and then got funding and then was going to come back for season two? How did that work?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. We did one season at a time.
okay.
We did, yeah. So we did the first season, shot it, got it done, launched it, great reviews, all the rest, and built a really great audience with it. And then immediately we got like a quarter of our funding for season two, which was a good chunk of money. And I thought, oh, this is great. We're off to the races. Like all you need is that first one in, and then the rest will follow.
Yeah.
Um, there was another fund that we were going for, and there was some administrative issues.
Yeah.
So I had to wait an entire year. My application was denied,
Oh,
and I had to wait an entire year to be able to reapply for it. Yeah, it's hard for sure to finance web series, but we did get it. The long and the short of it is that we did get that funding, and we were able to make the 6 episodes for season 2. But of course, then COVID happened. So,
put a damper in things.
yeah.
Why don't we just talk about the funding? Like what was your approach going in and seeking out funding? How did you go about it? And did you have a strategy when you were conceptualizing the series, how you were going to go about it, and did it change over time?
Yeah. So season 1, I mean, that was really, and when I was trying to finance that, it was right around Me Too, and kind of when all that was blowing up. And being a female director and somebody that wanted to get, into directing, it was just a perfect timing, perfect climate. And there was a lot of opportunities in Canada for female directors. And so season 1 was a mix of funds. There's Story Hive, which is part of TELUS, which is a telecom company here. They have a fund. The IPF, which is the Independent Production Fund, they had a fund. And then the rest was tax credits, because the season 1 went to CBC, a broadcaster. So I was able to trigger tax credits, which is always nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't think about the tax credits, so it's nice that you're bringing that up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, in Canada for domestic production, it's integral to what we do. Vancouver especially is a huge service production community. Like we have a lot of shows from Netflix and, Paramount and Amazon all coming up here to shoot. And it's wonderful. It's a really great, important, vital part of our industry. It puts a lot of kids through college and a lot of braces on teeth and pays a lot of mortgages in Vancouver, that sector. But as we're seeing right now, because of something like the writer's strike, there's a lot of people that are unemployed right now in Vancouver, because we're very, very dependent on the American productions coming up here and shooting. So when you're doing a Canadian production, the budgets are quite a bit smaller, and the money is very, very tight. So the tax credits are a huge part of that financing structure.
Wow. That's interesting. I didn't know that. So that's so cool. So what was your budget, if you don't mind my asking, for the first season versus the second season?
I wish I could say there was a big difference, but there was not. I can give you approximations.
Okay.
How about that? So approximation, season 1 was about 300,000 Canadian, and approximately season 2 is just over 460,000.
Wow, you got more for season 2 going into COVID.
Yeah, it's hard because again, you're only employing people for 12 days.
Yeah.
12-day shoot, and surprisingly, it sounds like a big budget for a web series, but it really is not, and it doesn't go very far. I mean, season 2, we shot it in 12 days. We had stunts, we had visual effects, we had an ensemble cast. It goes very quickly. And even though we pared down the locations significantly, we still had some big cost location fees. But we fed people really well, and everyone got paid, but they weren't getting paid what they get paid on a Netflix show.
Oh, okay.
So,
Got it.
yeah.
Well, I guess it's like, do you ever have enough money? I mean, does anybody ever say,
Yeah.
wow, I still have 100,000 to spare, you know? I mean, said no one. It's all relative, right? It's all relative to what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Did you have any strategies to engage and grow your audience for the web series and then marketing and distributing it?
100%. Yeah. So the Bell Fund was somebody that came in for season 2. And part of what you can get up to $150,000 through the Bell Fund short form program, but then they also give you an additional $50,000 for discoverability. And that money is to be solely spent on helping you connect with your audience. So I had worked with Magnify Digital in season 1. They're a media strategy company, digital strategists here in Vancouver, and they built the audience like you wouldn't believe for season 1. We had targeted paid ads. I think my first budget, I know we did 2 runs of it, but the second run of ads that we did on Facebook, I think I spent like $1,800 or something very piddly. But Magnify Digital, they were so in tune with who my audience was, where they were viewing, that they turned that $1,800 into 2.4 million social media reach.
Wow.
So 2.4 million people were touched by the ads, and then there's a lot. I can show you spreadsheets afterwards. If you
Yeah.
want. It's not, I just make the shows.
Right.
But that being said, I think filmmakers really need to understand that, I mean, yeah, it's great to make a film or it's a web series or what have you, but you want an audience. Like, you really need to know who your audience is. And some of those creative ideas within your storyline can come out into your marketing campaigns. In season 1, we did, tell us your craziest dream campaign, and people, kind of jumped on board with that. And it was a way, but that was something that was the creative content. We were able to kind of, I lost my train of thought, sir.
No. But you know what I was thinking? I interviewed another filmmaker that did a feature film, and she was talking about that she did TikTok, and they would film during the shoot and put it on TikTok, and they had and that branded that movie.
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize how much social media that you should really be on your film shoot, taking more so probably videos and photos, but, taking videos, putting it on the platforms, getting people excited about your film,
Absolutely.
And I think people don't think, I think sometimes people don't think about the end result. They're thinking they're all excited about what they're doing, but they're not thinking about how to distribute it and navigate the world.
Absolutely. And, part of the development I did at the very beginning in Women in Directors Chair, like, I did a little exercise where I wrote out kind of a short paragraph story about who the girl is that's going to watch my series. Because I knew it was women or young women. So it was like, she gets up, she like rolls over and texts her friend. She gets out of bed. She doesn't bother putting on da-da-da. She wears this and that. She goes down to Starbucks. She orders a blah, blah, blah. Like, it was just a great little exercise of who is this young woman that's going to watch on the SkyTrain or on the bus, wherever they're going to watch my series. And nothing drives me more insane when you ask a filmmaker, who's your movie for? And they go, everyone. No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not for everyone. It's not 18 to 48. It's not. Has your audience, have they gone to school? Are they working? Have they gone to university? Do they own their own home? Like, these are all questions that help you figure out where you can advertise to them. Because somebody who might be on Facebook is not going to be on Instagram, or Instagram not on TikTok, right?
Right.
And there's different ages. We all know now that Facebook's for old people.
Right. Yeah.
So
Do you have any tips for filmmakers to figure that out? Is that like a questionnaire? Is that like just you have to figure it out when you're reading your script to go like, who would want to see this? Like, or do you hire somebody to figure it out for you? Your genre, your target audience?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, in Canada, it's great. We have a lot of funding available to us, but that means you're filling out a lot of applications. And a part of those applications are always, what's your marketing plan? So I've done, just because of over the years, I've done a lot of these. I know how to kind of do up a marketing plan, but the internet is a great resource. Just start to Google, how do you write a marketing plan? How do you all of that. And yeah, think about what is the content of your film.
I was just curious, like, what was the most challenging part of creating the series for you?
Getting season 2 done was very challenging. And of course, navigating COVID. We were in Vancouver, we were the first indie project to go back to camera after lockdown. So we had all the unions coming to our set and figuring out how we were doing it and kind of monitoring. And not that that was the difficult part, but just, there was a lot of things to kind of navigate and expenses that we hadn't really prepared for, obviously. And what was the best part or
The challenging.
the challenging? Yeah, I would say just getting the financing for season 2.
Yeah.
Was the most challenging.
Yeah. And then what was the most rewarding part of creating the series?
The most
You have a
rewarding-
series.
Yeah, I have a series now. Yeah, absolutely. I'd say definitely the most rewarding was, being able to create opportunities for people that, had been working on these big shows, but they were stuck as a assistant set dresser or a TAD or and we were giving people opportunities to level up. And I guess, yeah, there was one day where we were filming at the Pink Hotel, and I just remember at lunch break, just lying on the grass, and I just could hear all these little conversations around me, and people are like laughing and having lunch outside, and it was just this moment of like, wow, really like being able to give people a chance and excel and seeing them excel at it,
Right.
that it was just like I just had this moment of like, yeah, okay, I'm doing something good here.
Right. Yeah. And re-navigating how to do things. Well, and also I feel like sometimes even the perks of it is like a lot of now you don't have to always be local. You can get on Zoom and do your
Yeah,
auditions, and you can do a lot
yeah,
of stuff where you don't really actually have to live in a certain place.
yeah.
Sometimes that maybe before you didn't.
Yeah, I love pitching now.
Yeah.
Pitching now is awesome because I can have my notes here.
Right. Yes.
And I can be on Zoom and I don't have to spend thousands of dollars to fly to Toronto. So
Right. You could be in your sweats in the bottom and a nice shirt on top, you know?
yeah, pretty much what I am doing today, actually.
Right. Exactly. I'm getting ready to exercise, so I have my exercise workout below. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of an interesting world. Do you think that it'll continue that way, or do you think that eventually everything will come back where it'll just be a hybrid of online and in person? Just depends.
Yeah, I think it'll be a hybrid. It's interesting. The Actors Union here in BC has just given notice that in-person auditions now have to take place again for their members,
Oh,
or the producer at their own expense has to provide a space where they can take their auditions. But I will just say that I think a lot of their members actually don't want to go back to in-person auditions.
yeah.
But
No. Well, I get it because
yeah,
you're right on so many factors that I didn't think about with the online is you can have your notes. Maybe there's somewhat a little bit more comfortability because there's a barrier between you and them, in a way than if you're in person and you're awkward or, like you can sit, you could be tapping your leg down below, nobody knows it. I mean,
yeah,
I think that there's some
yeah,
different, just comfortability
absolutely.
that could come
Well,
in this. So,
one thing I will say about the audition process and working with Tina Marie Casting is that I loved getting on camera auditions and being able to kind of go through those at my own leisure and kind of pick my top picks and then bring those people in for like callback and in-person callback. And the in-person callback for me is never about, can you do the job? I already know you can do the job at this point. It really is like, can you take direction?
Right.
Can I have you on set for 14 hours? What is it going to be like to work with each other? And yeah, that is rapport building. And yes, it doesn't have to do with, can this person do the job? For something like Narcoleap, it was also about the experience that we were building and like the vibe on set. And I'm very, very proud of like the sets that I have. Nobody is allowed to yell on my sets ever. Everyone is there. We have fun when we have fun. We are serious when we need to be serious, but we are not curing cancer. This is a chance for all of us to learn and grow and do the best job we can, have something part of our portfolio. And so, choosing actors that I think are going to be able to do the job, do a good job, tell the story, but be enjoyable on set. That's why I want to have a callback with you.
Well, I would love to know, how do you figure that out? Like when you're talking to the person, how do you know? Because people can present themselves a certain way and then you get them on. How are you weeding them out?
Tammy, I can't tell you my secrets.
Oh, God, but I want to
Nobody
know.
will ever audition for me again.
Oh, I didn't think about it that way. I was just thinking, like, how do you? That's a really interesting talent, or just one thing. Like, if there is,
I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you two things. I used to many years ago, in my 20s. I used to not that long ago, I guess.
Right, of course. 5 years ago.
Yeah. I worked in a bar in Vancouver, as many people did. I was trying to be an actor, and I was blah blah blah. Anyways, but the bar was really rough. It was a rough dive bar, and I got very, very good at judging character quickly, very quickly. So that experience, I always say, makes me a good director.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the ways I do it in the audition room is I get the person to do the audition the way they want to do it. Great. Okay. Now redirection. I give a redirection or an adjustment of some sort. Sometimes, tricks the trade, I give them something that is completely not correct. So it's more about, how do you react? And do you want to play? Or are you ready to try it? Like, let's try it. Why not?
Yeah. Right.
You got nothing to lose at this point. You've already won. You're at the callback.
Yeah.
So, or if it's like, I'm starting to get a lot of questions, and I don't know, like I can't maybe just articulate it, but it's about the redirection and about how they react to the redirection.
Okay. May I ask this question, which is coming from the reverse side? So what has an actor done that you're like, this isn't, like, what are the do's and don'ts, like, for an actor? How did you know? Like, is there something that they did, like, is asking a lot of questions bad?
No, not necessarily. I won't say that. Not necessarily. I think, rolling your eyes might be a bad thing to do.
Yeah, like, oh my God. Like, what have I signed up for here?
Yeah. I think questions are good. I think it's in the way they're presented sometimes. I had an actor that I worked with that when I gave them an opportunity to ask questions, they had no questions. But when I got on set with them, with the crew, all ready to shoot, that's when all the questions came out. And the questions weren't, oh, I just want to double check, blah, 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 blah. It was almost like a challenging you as a director in front of everyone, almost. Like, it was a weird thing. And I should have picked up on it in the audition room. I didn't.
But how would you have? I mean, maybe base it that they didn't have any questions, but how would you pick that up, knowing that somebody's going to challenge?
Looking back, I recall now they were having a lot of
little pushback.
Little pushback, yeah.
Because it sounds like a power dynamic here.
It was a power dynamic.
And yeah, I don't know why you got to do that. It's like, it just makes everybody feel uncomfortable. And is that really what you want? I don't know.
And you know what? It's like I said, we're not here curing cancer. No,
right.
We're here to tell stories. I mean, we are so privileged in what we do for a living.
Yeah.
Let's make it enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So, are there any projects you're working on now or anything that you would like to let us all know about?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of writing lately, actually. I have a feature film called Maybe This Christmas in development at the moment,
Okay.
and it's a mother-daughter story. And that's pretty much all I can tell you right now. It's a comedy. It's a bit of a bridesmaids-esque female comedy. So, yeah,
Have you written the whole script or you're in the process of writing the script?
we are knee deep in like the millionth draft of the script.
And I'd like to echo that a script should never have two revisions,
Oh,
ever. I
no.
mean, it is constant revising and cutting out, putting back in, and stories sometimes change within the process that when you start to cut and trim, some things don't work anymore. So, how long did it take you to write it? And did you write it by yourself or did you write it?
No, no, I have a co-writer, Chris Campbell. It's funny. He actually pitched me the idea a while ago and the script, and it was a father and son story. And I really liked it. It was very, very funny. A little bit kind of Christmas Vacation kind of comedy. But I really thought there was like a seed of an idea there. And so, again, looking at the funding and what was available and how I could kind of get this to the next stage as a producer, because I wanted to direct it as well. But I said, I think we could make this work if it was a mother-daughter story. And at that point, he was game. He was like, "Oh yeah, okay, great." But I'm a dude, so maybe you come on as a co-writer, and so that's how that came about.
How did you work that? Are you in the same area, so you just got together and met? Did you do it on Zoom? I'm always kind of curious with the collaboration. How does that work
Yeah. Well,
for you?
interesting enough, I have never met Chris in person.
Oh,
He lives on the other side of the country. I'm on the West Coast. He's on the East Coast. So we do a lot over Zoom. I'm currently doing the latest draft, and then I'll send it to him for his thoughts and notes, and then we'll kind of go back and forth like that.
so you're kind of the core writer. And then is that correct? Like you kind of like he had the idea, you wrote the script, and then he has his nuances, or did
He had the idea and he wrote the script.
okay,
And then I did a draft I flipped all the characters
right.
to women. And since then we've gone through development a couple times on it. And I took it to the Whistler Film Festival,
Wow.
Producers Lab, and got selected for that and did some more development. So yeah,
Wow.
right now it's just really refining kind of what we've got there.
That is
Uh,
so great.
yeah.
Well, it's so exciting, especially when you get to work with somebody like because I know that the writer's process can be very lonely and daunting,
Oh God,
So it's
yeah.
great that you have somebody at least you had a shell of an idea, like the script, and then you're just, I mean, switching male to female, there may be some things you're going to have to change within that. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
wow, that is so exciting.
Yeah, and I've worked with a couple of story editors as well on it. Ruth Atkins is in LA. She's a story editor, fantastic story editor. And Sue Browning up here in Canada, she's as well a really well-rounded story editor in comedy and drama. So between the two of them, I've gotten some really good notes. Comedy's hard. Comedy is really hard. I mean, I'm hilarious,
Yes.
but
So am I.
yeah,
I know.
putting
I
it on
guess.
paper is a different story.
Yeah. So, like, what are some things that you've learned through one thing being comedic and then writing it, and then does it still translate? I mean, what were some of the things that came up?
Yeah, well, knowing that I'm going to direct this as well,
Yeah.
I know the coverage that I'm going to get on a scene. And I know that I'm going to give those actors moments where they can improv, or I can make sure I get that look, because that look, that beat is really what sells the joke or what have you. But if you don't write that in sometimes for the
Right.
reader, it's like, I don't get it. It's not funny. And I'm like, well, in my head, it's really funny
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I can see it, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. And that's kind of an interesting thing. I was thinking about being a writer director. You probably already have the movie in your head, I
yeah,
would think. And
yeah.
then do you ever, when you're auditioning, like going, wow, that was a different take that I didn't think about for this film? Like, do you have those kind of moments, or whoa, that's just not it?
Oh,
Probably more so not it than, but
yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it when an actor surprises me like that, and
yeah.
gives me something that, yeah, I hadn't thought of. We did do a read through of this script, a previous draft. We did a read on Zoom with just some friends and one of the, actors, and one of them gave me a read of the mother character, and I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that before. And yeah, it was great. I love it. And that's where the collaboration comes in with your acting talent that I just adore.
And then what did you edit on?
It was Premiere or
Avid or Premiere? Final
it was
Cut,
Premiere.
DaVinci?
Premiere. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. It's always cool to know what everybody uses. So, is there anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think if you're going to embark on, trying to create a web series or, a short film or what have you, again, think about, why you want to do it. What's your intention behind it? Those relationships that you've built over the years, hopefully that you're able to pull some favors and, create something really incredible. But yeah, I think about like why you want to do it and what's the story that you want to tell, and why should you be doing this story now, kind of thing.
I love it. That is so great. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks. I just encourage everyone, just go for it. Just give it a try.
Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to get out there and make a film. Reach out to your local filmmakers group to get involved and connect. Please subscribe to the show if you like it, and follow me on Instagram at Tammy Magaro. Until we meet again, what's your story?